Good morning. Today I'm going to look at some of my what I call neglected families. Pleurotomaridae, the slit shells, of which I don't have very many. There's predominantly two main species in this drawer, and then in the other drawer I'm going to look at the worm shells, what are known as the slit worm shells, and the worm shells, the tusk shells, and then also the watering pot clams. So a real mix. We've got some gastropods, we've got some scaphopods, and even some bivalves. All right, so if I look at this first group, I've only got 5 species amongst this lot, predominantly Westralis, which is quite frequently trawled from northern Australia. Some interesting, some beautiful colourings in some of these, and then some of the colourings are somewhat blander, almost, in some cases almost white. So that's and most of these have operculums. There's an example of an operculum. Even with that break there, some of the coming up with the trawlers, the shells get battered around a bit. Right, the other common one here is Harassai, which is mainly from areas like Japan and China. There's an albino one there. I'm assuming that's authentic. That's from Taiwan. I'm assuming that's authentically albino and hasn't been tampered with chemicals and things. So a number of Harassai there. That's an interesting one. I picked that up for $2 in just a normal general sort of thrift shop. There's a Groves there, but I thought that was quite a bargain, finding that for $2. And then some of my rarer ones down here. Rumphi from the Philippines, beautiful shell that. And then a couple of lovely shells here, one that I'm calling Antsui, and the other one Gotai, if I've got that identified properly. All right, so they're my slit shells. As I said, not very many. Family, I haven't really, well, I certainly haven't found any myself, and most of my collection, I would say, is self-collected, so that's why I'm calling that neglected family. Just primarily what I've got from trawlers and shells that I've purchased. All right, now we're going to have a look at some other groups. Another group of gastropod are the worm shells, and some of the species I've got from Australia include Weldi, Anguina, Ponderosa, Coming Eye, and Maximus. Whole range there. I love those pinky purpley ones with Ponderosa, different colours there. Very common one here, and you can see why they're called the slit worm shells. That sort of slit right up, following the curves of that shell. And then you've got those worm shells that don't have that slit. So they're all local, just about all of these are locally collected. Some lovely ones down there of Anguina. And then some very interesting ones that I really have, the literature on worm shells, I haven't found that extensive in terms of what I can access. So that's a very interesting one there. Found locally, yes. And that's actually a fossilized collection of worm shells. All right, so they're also all in the gastropods. Now we go to have a look at the Scaphopods, and these are known as the Tusk shells. Reading up about, and again, fairly neglected family. Most of the ones there I've collected myself or acquired from local trawlers. Reading the literature, there's 108 species in Australia alone. So my collection falls far short of that. In fact, the vast majority of these are from Australia, Indo-Pacific, and to my knowledge I've only got one from Europe, and I don't think any from the Americas. So as I said, I'm calling this video My Neglected Families. So I'll point out some interesting one, Salmani, a deep water one collected off Northern Australia. All of those there from Northern Australia. A number of them I haven't been able to identify properly, apart from Salmani, and I'm assuming I've also got amongst that group Vernidae and possibly Vigdani. There's some other ones that I find very interesting, that one in particular, but it may be a subfossil. And again, all collected from local trawlers. And then some very well-known ones, Elephantium there. That little one there is a local one that I find very frequently, very smooth shell. And there's my other local one. Which gets a greeny tinge, so I'm assuming it's possibly Elephantium. And then a lot of interesting ones here from various locations. There's my only European one. Japan, southern Queensland, those lovely yellow ones. A couple of other Australian ones, a mixture here from southern Queensland and some Philippines. There's a mixed bag of local. I have no idea how many species are within that group. All right, and then there's one down here. I know it's not Tantalum. Found that in Sydney Harbour, but someone did tell me many years ago what it was, what animal that's from, but I have completely forgotten. That was some over 50 years ago someone told me about that. Anyway, I've just got it here out of interest. And then the last shells I want to look at are the watering pot clams, and these are actually bivalves, very surprisingly so. So I've never, I think I did come across a number of these over the years, but I never bothered picking them up. It's only probably been about the last 5 to 10 years that I've realised it is something I should add to my collection as a bivalve. So I have been collecting them. So there I've only got a couple of species. I know Strangulates and Giganteus, possibly Atraeans is another species amongst that group. All right, so as I said, my neglected families, and certainly families that I want to make sure I add to in the future. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. And just talking about the slit shells here, I've seen some absolutely magnificent collections of this shell. Some collectors very much specialize in them. All right, so sorry about my meager offerings in this video, but I thought there might be something of interest to some people there. All right, thank you very much.